Alright, so here we have the lesson for natural selection. It starts with a table of contents, so if you happen to come back at any point throughout the lesson, or if you just want to go to a specific spot within the lesson, you can click on it, it'll take you there. Here's our science standards of what we're trying to accomplish. We have the task we'll do as scientists, and that's called the science and engineering practices. We have our lesson overview, a problem that, like always, guides our lessons. And then on we go down. So let's just go ahead and scroll down. There's our standards, practices. This is kind of the first part we need to focus on. This is the scientific problem. How have species like humans or rabbits survived on Earth? So your group, or you as an individual, will start this entire lesson. The first thing you do is you click here. So the link was fixed. So when you click on this link, it'll open up a tab right here. And you can see you can put the name of yourself or your group members' names here, and then you write in your initial hypothesis. My initial hypothesis is humans and bunnies survive by eating healthy foods. All right, there's a hypothesis, right? It's an initial one. So whatever you end up putting is your group, right? All right. Later on, you'll come back and modify your hypothesis just based on some of the activities and new information you've learned, so that if you want to change it from your initial to now a final, you will. And either way, you're going to eventually be connecting your hypothesis to any evidence you have. So especially if the hypothesis changed, here you would just give evidence to support why you've changed it. You'd use evidence from the activity, the data you've collected. So once you've produced your initial hypothesis, you'd move down and then click on the simulator. And clicking on the simulator is easy. Just tap it on this image right here, and it'll open up. There'll be a separate video for how to use the simulation, and it'll also show you just kind of how to open and run the simulator, how to get it going. There's a few selections you have to choose from, and I'll let you see those. But just know that you click here, and it'll access the simulator, and there's a separate video, of course, to learn how to use it. When you're using the simulator, you can go with different settings, and we have a total of 12 different experiments just based on settings you can choose in the simulator. Your group will be assigned one of these experiments to perform within the simulation, and you decide that based on these options. It says use generator above, that upper box, to find which experiment out of 12 you're going to complete. So where it says people, you place 12 for the number of experiments, and you place 1 because you only want one option. You just want to see which one it's going to give you. So you put 12 and 1, hit submit, gives you a number. So if I was doing this myself, I would choose 7, and I would click here, and clicking here and is going to, of course, take you to the spreadsheet where you can enter data. And just based on whatever number you get, you'll choose that link, and that link, all of these will take you to different potential links where you can collect data. The specific one I'm doing is Arctic. So we're going to the Arctic. We'd have a selection for wolves, and there'd be no mutations. So just to show you what that would look like on the spreadsheet, I would click here. So based on the result, I need to select number 7. So you click here to take you to the right data table where you'll enter in information based on what you collect. So right here, it opens up on one tab, but there's 4 total tabs. The tab I'm responsible for was number 7. That's Arctic, wolves, no mutation. So let's find that. Arctic, wolves, no mutation. Arctic, food. Okay, that's not the right one. So we need to click a different one. Alright, so option 7 was Arctic, wolves, no mutation. And if you can see the tabs here, this says Arctic wolves, brown mutation. Arctic wolves, no mutation. That's the one we want. And then a third one, Arctic wolves, tooth mutation, and then a fifth, sheet 5. We'll talk about sheet 5 later. But this is the one that's specific to our experiment, Arctic wolves, no mutation. And you click on it, right? So as you can see, and regardless of what experiment you're doing, again, there's 12 total possibilities. And you just select the right tab for yourself, just depending on what number you got when you put 12 and 1 and submitted, right? But going back to here, so you have your group name or your name, right? You enter in whatever number for the first generation. Again, just to make sense of it, I adjusted a little just so you know that these numbers right here are generations. So the first generation of rabbits, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, fifth, all the way up to 10 generations. You may not make it to 10 generations. Your rabbits may survive beyond that, or they may die before they reach 10 generations. It just depends on the factors you choose. But as an example, I would put myself, Joshua, right? And then I entered for my first generation that there was 5 rabbits. The second generation there was 6. Third generation there was 7. Fourth generation there was 10. Fifth there was 6. And so I just put numbers in there. They don't really reflect the game. I just made them up. But you're going to use these, and this gives you a sense of the overall population as it's occurred, right? And then you go to the sheet right here. And in general, this is kind of a analysis portion. It takes the average for the different scenarios for Arctic wolves, brown, no, or tooth mutation, and it graphs it. And so the line, based on what I entered as fake, was Arctic wolves, no mutation. It's the red line, and you can see the proceeding. So it's just another opportunity for us to better understand how the rabbits do in an Arctic environment when wolves are in the environment and they have no mutations, right? And all these numbers and these figures, these are all just made up. And when we perform the lab for real, you'll have different results in the graph and we'll have different averages here. But it gives us an opportunity to compare how the rabbits do in the Arctic environment when they have mutations or if they don't. So moving forward, I understand again you haven't seen the simulation itself potentially, but it'll all make more sense when you combine this video with a second video that focuses more on the activity and how to use it. And I'll go back and forth between the data sheet and this just to help you some more, okay? But let's move further down. So it says step 8, collect and enter data. Well, that's what we just discussed. And the next thing is to revisit your hypotheses. So once you've entered data, you really want to go back to your hypothesis, look at it and see, do I need to change this to better match what we've learned from the simulation, from this activity? Is there things you've learned from the data and the results in the graph that would lead you to the thought that perhaps your hypothesis should change or your explanation for how things survive should change? And then you would input that in your... So you would go back and say if it was me, again, my initial hypothesis is that humans and bunnies survive by eating healthy foods. And then my final hypothesis is humans and bunnies blank. Right. So I don't want to give you any ideas. And again, your final hypothesis may not need to be changed from your initial. But if it does stay the same, or if it changes, this right here is the time when you connect your newest hypothesis with evidence. So what evidence or what did you observe? What did the data say or the graph to shape your new hypothesis that explains how humans and other organisms like rabbits are able to survive? So once you've revisited your hypothesis and you kind of show your learning through the activity by changing, modifying, or at least supporting your thinking with evidence, we move on to the last part, which is the report. And you can click on the report through this link, and you must be able to address the original problem with your evidence. So the report's purpose is to give your current argument of how species like humans or rabbits survive on Earth. In doing that, you have to hit a certain number of topics and share it amongst your group members, or if you're doing it on your own, of course you address it on your own. But there's three different options on how you report what you understand and how you report your answer or solution to this problem. And one, you could do a written report, straightforward, just do essay style, and each section of the essay could be a partner's contribution, focusing on a certain part of survival or a certain part of the data. Option two is you create a model, and you could draw with your teammates. You could draw, and each of you could take responsibility for a certain part of a drawn model. You could hand do it on paper, and then you could take a picture of it, of course, and then post it onto your report slide. Again, it must meet the requirements of a model, and it must show that you have collaborated on it, and all individuals have shared in completing it. The other approach might be a computer designed model where you visually show your understanding rather than typing it, and that could be done nothing fancy. You could just use shapes and symbol functions on the slideshow document. You could also, copy paste different images that you like. You could take a screenshot of the simulation. These are all possibilities, whichever way. There's a little more steps involved if you hand draw your model, because you need to be able to show the actual picture of what you made, and you're going to have to post that on your slide. And make sure that they meet all the requirements that are posted on the slide, and make sure they meet the requirements of a model overall. And if you have forgotten what those requirements are for a model, you can always just ask me, and I'll of course reference you to a slide or the document going over that. Option number three is an interesting one. I'm happy if you do this also, and this is the audio argument, where you as a group decide who will talk about which part of the report, and you just discuss it with one another using talk moves and getting each other to dig deep and think deeply about the topic, and providing evidence for whatever's being claimed by any individual. You just record it with your phone with a basic audio recording function on the phone. It's already in there in the utilities part. And you then, of course, you need to place a link on the report slide or the slideshow, whatever page or slide your group is working on. You need to just put a link there showing that discussion. If that discussion hits all the requirements on that slide, and they show each individual using evidence to support their thinking, you have a perfect report there. So there's three different ways to do it, and all require different skills, but they all are able to hit these requirements also if done correctly. All right, hope you have fun with that. Once the report's done, the final part is each individual overall needs to do a concept attainment survey, and you enter in your email address, which is good for you because it'll report back on how you answered. You choose your period, your full name. You're going to identify what you think the first step in adaptation for a species is, and all the way on down until you have an open response question about what you think natural selection is based on what you've learned so far. Then, of course, you submit it, and that'll give me an understanding of what people know coming from just following the lab, and it'll give you an idea of kind of where your standing is and your understanding. Is there a certain topic maybe you need to learn? Do you have mastery already? Either way, good luck.